Well, hello, and welcome back. I'm AJ O'Neill. This is indeed Beyond Code Live, and we are doing a code review of Kai Hendry's first Express project here. So I'm going to make that window a little bit smaller. And before we even touch, I don't know, we touched the keyboard. I already touched the keyboard. Anyway, we're going to open up a word from our sponsor, but not really our sponsor, Mr. Mountain Dew. Popped up, my friends. Let us open focus so we can focus in on this. And if Kai happens to join us, all the better. I will actually be happy to let him in, but I think he's sleeping still. Those people over in the UK. All right. Okay, so here we go. Express Starter. In particular, he wanted me, I think this is meant to be a template repo. All right, so I'm just going to do some heavy editing here. All right, first of all, every node project must begin with use strict. Otherwise, you're using ECMAScript 3 instead of proper JavaScript, meaning the old 1999. And you don't want to do that. All right, so that's first things first. We got Express, we got Ida, we got body parser, we got Morgan, that's the logger. Okay, yep, so far so good. So we instantiate Express, this is good. What I don't see here, no, don't do this. I'm actually going to reference, hold on. I'll explain because I said it, I didn't show you what it was. Node.js best practices. I always like to dig up other people's stuff to prove my point and then ignore their other stuff that goes against other points of mine. And this is a great repo for that. So they talk about the HTTP module. Listen. What? No, was it not this one? It might have been a different one. Okay, I'll have to go dig up where it was. Because there was it's particularly, it was just talking about when you create a server, use the HTTP server. Node has an HTTP server. That is the right thing to use. Don't use Express because Express just wraps the HTTP server actually in an awkward way that makes it more difficult for you to get at the Express object. So that's what I scrolled down to the bottom to see because I saw there wasn't an HTTP here. Also, this is a matter of, let's see, preference, modules, alphabetical order, right? So Ida, yeah. So this is alphabetical order. HTTP is a native module, so native modules, then own modules, and then after that the third-party modules. But there are no own modules here. All right. So setting the engine, great. JSON spaces, interesting. I wouldn't do that here. So I put a dev flag on this. So if production not equal process.env.node env maybe. Because you are, this eats up CPU time. This is significant. It is actually important. Well, I guess that doesn't matter that much. It's really about the size of your object, not how many spaces you have. But yeah, I do that. Okay, URL encoder. This is a little bit weird because we're instantiating things. Well, I guess it just feels that way because we're declaring something here. Yeah, extended false, that's good. If you don't do this, it is kind of PHP style parsing, which can be confusing when you're not expecting it. So this extended false means it just does standard parsing, which is usually what you want. So URL encoded parser, I wouldn't do it this way. All right, so we're gonna do this a little bit differently here. So I'm gonna move this up into where we're instantiating things. I guess we could put it in alphabetical order and say instantiations go here. That's fine. This is not what you like to do, and this can, or want to do, and this has unintended consequences. So you don't generally want to put the middleware. There's two types of request handlers. There's real request handlers and there's middleware. And I don't know how to articulate the precise difference between the two, but I can tell you that when you use the wrong one, weird things can happen. So if it is true middleware, if it's not part of the request chain, but it's meant to be used as middleware generically, you want to attach the middleware in a use. You don't want to attach middleware in a post or a get. This one probably works fine that way, but I've encountered it. It's something to do with the state management and the internals. I've had issues where literally Ryan Burnett and I were debugging something for literally hours, going through different pieces of the code, doing sanity checks, logging an object. And it had to do with having something in an app.get instead of an app.use or vice versa. But if you are going to call res.json, then you want to be in a get or a post or a put or a patch. If you are never going to call res.json, except in an error case, you might hand back an error, then you want to use. So I don't know. I'll have to figure out how to articulate better what the difference between a middleware and a handler is, but they are different. And there are chained handlers where if a handler doesn't complete its cycle, you fall through, and some of that, it can also be middleware, but I wish I could articulate the exact problem that I've encountered with that is, but I have encountered problems with that. Okay. All right. So here, and I'm going to argue constants go at the top and are all caps, just like any other language. Now, not all Node developers do that, but that's what I'm going to argue for, is that that's how that should be done. That is the right way to do it. And then along with that, I'm going to go ahead and say we're going to have a var server here. Well, I guess, yeah, whatever. Doesn't matter. This, that, the other. I don't updated art. Do we want updated art? We do want updated art. Okay, I thought that was a misspelling of updated at for a second. Anyway, so here, well, port, but this should be http.create server, and then give it app. So then you have server, and then server.listen. Because this is a useless abstraction. So I talk about useless abstractions all the time. This is a useless abstraction. You save yourself one line of code to veil yourself in ignorance. And then whenever you actually need access to the server, which does happen from time to time. Okay, so I would do this. My rule is no expressions inside of templates. Templates are pure templates. And actually, in this particular case, we don't want to do it that way. I want to do it this way. And this is good because it's nice to know, sometimes when you're debugging, it's nice to know, wait, was I running this on localhost? Am I running it on the generic listening port? So I'm going to call that good. Okay, so I don't know what fill is, and I don't know what, okay, render from the template directory. Who knows what that means? Okay, again, this is another useless abstraction. People are going to argue with this. That's just fine. I don't like useless abstractions. So there it be. Res.statuscode, res.end. I don't, method chaining in general, it's cute and it's a dumb idea. So, and again, if you're going to require something, requires should not go, just generally speaking, they shouldn't go in the middle of the file. And that's not a constant. See, F. So fs is not a constant. It's a variable. You can change it any way you like. What's up, Johannes? How you doing? Oh, and hello, everybody else. Sorry, normally I'm a little more cordial and friendly, but I just jumped right into it. Hey, everybody. How's it going? What brings you to the channel tonight? What would you like to learn? So I'm going to do this, actually, all the way down. This is not what most people do, but he asked me for a code review. This is the way that I do it. Now, body parser is actually body parsers. It's not a body parser. It is body parsers. It has multiple of them. But yeah, Morgan, I guess, actually is a function. So this is my thing. If it's a package, it's a capital letter. So the litmus test, do you invoke it directly or do you use it as a value? Then that's not a package. That's a single thing. If it has methods on it, then it is a package. All of these things have methods on them. Maybe Express, we could say not so much really, because it kind of does, but let's see if it's actually used that way anywhere in here. So this is, a lot of the stuff's super pedantic. It doesn't really matter that much, but this is AJ style. So it's how I do. All right. So we got body parser, we got ETA, we got Morgan Express, and then I'm going to put HTTP down here. Again, I mean, this just makes sense. In every other language in the world, and in most modern Node packages, the package begins with a capital letter. And so just because all of the old documentation still has lowercase letters back from the olden days. Oh, and I'm doing great. Thank you. Doesn't mean that we shouldn't, upgrade it where we can. It seems reasonable. So who knows what the heck that means? Throw new error update. So this is this looks smelly to me. I don't know what this is supposed to do. But one, let's not do that. That is actually invalid code. It's not valid JavaScript. If you're missing use strict, then you won't be checked for valid JavaScript. Although in recent versions of Node it should. But let's see what. Yeah, that's fine. That should be fine. So that was a bug because that was actually assigning to an undefined variable that will throw an exception. And if you want to go with the all caps, fine. This is JavaScript, so I'd say make it camel case, but I'm not gonna. That's a super tiny nit. All right, let's see. I don't know what all the rest of this stuff means. Fair bundle, flat map. Okay, again, if it's because we're asking for an AJ review here, this is garbage on 10 different accounts. I have come down to the conclusion that there is really no sense in. I don't know what this does. I guess I could go look at this link maybe and find out, but comments should come above. But none of this arrow function garbage. It doesn't handle this correctly. Hopefully you're not using this anyway, because that's a code smell on its own. But no implicit returns. That's nonsense. And then I am not a fan of doing. Oh yeah, this is just straight up no. This is too much chaining. This is super unintuitive. Come on, man, you're a Go developer. Come on now. So let's do a little bit with this here. So let's say var. I don't know what entry is. Entry equals. And then you're making the assumption that you're going to find this thing, but how do you know whether you're going to find this thing or not? Okay, so this is more intuitive, right? I think that this is too much though, really. I'm coming around to thinking just for each, because it's getting so complicated between all the different possible array methods you could use, and then you're trying to nest them together and do all this stuff. At that point, I really think that, you could just, if I'm not mistaken, I could be confused about what's going on here, but I think you could just do resource type equals patient here. Right? And of course, I'm going to put constants on the left because this is a dangerous language. Go is the only language I know that doesn't allow you to make dangerous evaluations. So, this could just be find right here. Although, again, okay, so then you have, I mean, you could just simplify this a whole ton, right? You just say, if that, then, I don't know. You're returning a resource in this case. Is that what the deal was? So then it's going to be dot identifier dot find. Let's see, an entry. I don't know. I don't know what we're doing here, actually. Let's just see. It seems too complex. It's too complex. Let's just keep it simple. Just go to the daggone for each. You know? That's what I'm gonna say. It's just that these things they get too complex. Or I guess that the one that I'd suggest using 99% of the time you need a loop, use .sum. That's what I'm coming to. And you've seen me write code and I do lots of other stuff. Oh, hey Noah, what's up? And hey Kai. Hey, from a kid's playground. All right. So I don't really know what this is supposed to be, but I'm just, I think JavaScript's too complex, and you can make it a little bit more Go-ish and a little bit less JavaScripty. So you can do a return true here, which basically is a break essentially. And then, so this one would be, am I understanding this correctly? 1, 2, 3, 4. And then let's put constants on the left. And then I guess we just want to say if this is true, then just do entry equals entry. That seems a little bit weird to me because it's called entry here and it's called entry here. I don't know. Now it probably looks worse. Maybe I should just undo all of that. I don't know. It's just, I think there's too many. Oh, here's one thing that we could do. So we could, all right, there we go. Let's write Go style code. Early return. If it's not the right thing, get out of town, right? Keep as little indented as possible. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you missed the good part, Kai. Oops. Okay. No, maybe it should have been. Maybe the way that it was right. Do like this. I don't know. I think maybe I did make it. Maybe I made it worse. Maybe it was already worse to begin with. So this is simple enough. Did we want? Oh, and then I guess it would just be return here. This would be whatever the return value is there. That's the return value that we want. Okay, so that's it. That's me applying AJ style to this, which that last part was probably not super useful, but so yeah. Let's ignore that part for a second because I don't even know what I'm doing there. But and Kai, you're going to find, I mean, this is just, when you're not programming in Go, constants on the left because you can never accidentally assign to the left. So Go doesn't allow doing assign inside of the condition of a for. Go doesn't allow you to do bad things. But in your average language, especially where you use double equals, you would potentially, if you have a typo, it would be syntactically correct and your linter may not catch it. And then you can make an assignment from your constant to your variable. But if you put your conditional the other way around, you can never accidentally assign a variable to a constant. And so that's why I say constants on the left. That's not general. You're never going to see anybody else that programs like I program. Well, unless you do kind of in the Go community, but some of these things they don't have to do defensive coding on. But anyway, if it's a package, start with a capital letter. All of the new node code does that. None of the old node code does, but so this is just a function. I think this was just a function too. Yeah, so these are just functions. So it makes sense. They're just instance functions. But these two are actually packages. These are all just packages. Constants up at the top just because, the same way you do in any other language. Then make sure that you have a server for your HTTP server. I put all these in alphabetical order just because that makes sense. We only want to put JSON spaces if the environment is not production, or we could say only if it's development, whatever way you wanted to, default that to. And I guess this is a thing. I don't know. By the way, if you wanted to get timestamps that have the offsets in them for your time zone, xtz.js is the library that I wrote to do that. You probably don't need that in this situation, but sometimes it's useful. Or if you need to translate between time zones, it's a nice lightweight way to do it. Oh, and Noah, sorry, I did not acknowledge your comment. I am so sorry. I saw your name and I said hello, and then I got distracted, and then I didn't actually read your comment. So Constance on the left, what is that about? So I did explain that. Also, hi, I'm new. Welcome to have you. Or you're welcome. Great to have you. I can't speech. Anyway, I will invite you to the channel, the Discord, if you'd like. Go ahead and boop, Discord, boom. So if you want to come into the Discord, come on in, say hello. We have some good conversation from time to time. I do content requests. So anyway, again, this is super opinionated. This is AJ style. It's not necessarily the way that other people do it, but, okay. So I think I've mentioned this to you, Kai, but I'm going to go ahead and grab this too real quick. So async router. This is how you do error handling, because one of your questions was, how do I do error handling? This is how to do it. So you will, it's a very, very, very simple change. So this is it right there. This is your change to have error handling, because Express has error handling built in, but it doesn't work. And so that's a little unfortunate, but it's the way that it is. So instead of doing it that way, let's see, do we have it that way? App server. Oh, and then hold on. And then we need to call our other server something else then, I guess. Well, we could just do this. Hold on. We could just do down here, we could do http.createserver.listen. And then we could go back to, instead of having the address, we could just have port. Or we could do var HTTP server. I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. I'm gonna go with that HTTP server. Technically, we should now move that up top because it's a var. But I'm just gonna leave it there for the moment, and then we can put this here. HTTP server. Okay. So now errors are going to be handled as long as everything you do, you have async in here, and you put async in here. Then errors are going to be handled automatically. Now, if you don't want to use async router, you can still do this. So I'm going to show you how you do it if you don't use async router. It's a little bit more verbose, but you just do the wrapping manually. So you do you would do new promise. No. You would do promise.resolve.catch next. That's how you would do error handling. And then in your resolve, you could put this whole function. So that's what async router does, is it just wraps it for you so that you don't have to write that out every single time. That's all that async router does, is it just makes sure that all of your functions, async. Just make sure that all of your functions are async. So I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm not going to edit your package.json, but you can do that later. In the update function, I'm not handling the throw. Typo on part should be port, probably. Did I say part? Yeah, so we'll look at that in just 1 second. Where did part go? Port, yes, that should be port. Okay, let me go back to the top here. Okay, so we made that an async function. We make this an async function. So it's just doing the .catch for you. So you probably won't ever need, in a handler, typically you don't need to call next. And then at the very end, app.use, and then let's make sure, does everything have, yeah, everything's got that. And then you put in, and this is the bit for your final error handler. You can have multiple and they can be mounted on different routes. rec res next. I think it's error rec res next. And so then you could do res.json, and then maybe you could do, say, message, error.message, code or status if you've got one or something. And then I showed you this before, but res.status code equals 500 if you don't know what the error is. So what I typically do is I put a dot code on my errors, or rather a dot status. The dot code will be a string and the dot status will be a number. And I will do something like this: error.status or 500. And then and what I actually do is I do this: if error.status less than 500, then I will do res.json error. And I have my errors set up in such a way that they will stringify correctly, but it'll just give back the whole error, just give back everything. Or we could do it, we could do it different ways, but basically just give back the whole error. I probably need to, okay, well, so, I might give back status, so error.message, error.status, error.code. So if it's less than 500, I give back everything. And if it's greater than 500, so actually we could swap this around so that we're doing less code, return early, right? So if it's greater than or equal to 500, notice that's not an arrow function. That's a comparison. I know it looks really confusing. Oh, I should be doing this in an editor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And I'm, doing some bad syntax here because I'm not actually in an editor, and I probably should be. But yeah, so my message on this, what I do is I would console.log this, console.error, so that I can see it on the server side. And I'd console.log the stack, and I'd console.log or console.error. And then we could put an ID here. And then we could just do, say, crypto.random UUID. You could do this. And then you could do ID. Whoops. So we could do it this way. We could do var ID equals crypto.random UUID. And then I'll look at comments in just a second. I probably haven't been looking at those. Yeah, so we could do like this. And then put the ID here, and then put the message internal server error ID. Let's just go ahead and do that again. Like that. And then I need to go back up here, and now I need to do var crypto equals require crypto. All right. Now this way, this is some good generic error handling, because now you've got a message that you could get that has an ID in it. What I would actually do is probably chop this down. So let's say slice, and let's only take the first, well, let's take from the rear. So let's say take the last 8 or maybe the last 12 characters of the random UUID. Let me just check that out real quick and see what that ends up being. Whoops. But let's go to it. Let's see. Crypto.random UUID.slice 0 -12. That's not what I wanted. What was I thinking? So this is the whole thing. So if I want the last however many, there's a way to do this. Is it -12? It's just -12. That's what it is, right? Yeah. Okay, that's what it should be. -12, just slice -12. There we go. So there, now we get some ID. It's fairly long, but it's not too long. You can read it from a program as the ID. You can read it as customer support as the error ID. Why is this return not highlighting? What did I do wrong? Did I break something? Yes, I did. There we go. There we go. So yeah, so there's your error handling for you. And then you might want to do, I don't know, do whatever you need to do to sanitize your message. But if it's greater than or equal to 500, then it's an internal error. Okay, I'm looking back over here. Hi, sir. How's it going? I cannot say your name. Halido Maniac? Halido Maniac? You should try the .inbuilt VS Code GitHub editor next time. The dot? Why am I trying the dot? I don't... Tell me more. Tell me more. All right, anyway. So there we are. Oh, don't read file sync. Don't read file sync. Okay, no, we don't want that. And you need to read this as UTF-8, by the way. That I don't see how that could have possibly worked without doing, so we need to go up here. We need to do .promise. I think that's what it is. Hold on, let's see. I always forget if it's promise or promises. We got some people join in. Hey, Noah. Provo CA Teach. What, Provoca Teach? Because Provo is a city here, so I started reading as Provo. What was I testing? fs.promises. Promises. Okay, that's what it is. Promises with an S. Okay. So now, where are you doing that? Because if you do read file sync, if you ever do sync, you're blocking the thread the entire time. You don't want to do that. Also, is this going to be changing all the time? Do you need to change this regularly? Or is this just going to be a one and done? Because if this is a file that you're writing to over and over again, then I could see where you'd want to reread it. If you don't actually intend to reread this, then you can get rid of both of these. And you can just do a require. And you probably should make sure you use relative path there anyway. But you could just do a require on this. All right. I'm just kind of semi-copying your style. I have a hard time believing that this is actually... And then this would be an await, right? Is this going to be an await? Because isn't this async? Yeah, this is async, so you need an await there. This did not work, brother. You sent me code that didn't work. Let's see. But wait, no. Did I make it async? This did not need to be async. Okay, no. I made it async. Sorry for the accusation. False accusations. I made it async. It does not need to be async. I don't know whether this works or not. And it does look worse now. I'll admit to that. But this is the thing though. People get so complex with all the different types of loops you can ever possibly do in JavaScript, and it just gets more confusing. And so I'm just kind of the opinion, just stick to what you need, right? So if we want to make this a little less complex, there's your entry. Well, I don't know how you can define if something's actually what you want. So if it's got this identifier, then it's the one that you want. I don't know. I mean, that seems to be, I don't know. Yeah, probably, 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. But I don't like all the flat map and the reduce and the this and the that. Because you're probably using it correctly. But normally, it's just too hard to tell. It's just too hard to tell what something actually means. So anyway. All right. With that, so one more once over here, and then I'm just going to submit this PR, and we're going to see. Hello, everybody. Welcome. I'm AJ O'Neill. What brings you to the stream tonight? What would you like to learn? I'm almost done with this. I'm going to be working on some lesson material. We have a content request channel, and so I'm going to be working on some lesson material tonight. I'll go ahead and give you all a link again in case you didn't see it before, or it's not still in chat. It probably should be. But there's the Discord link. The Discord link again. So feel free to come in. Go to the introductions channel, introduce yourself. If you got a question or something, put it in the content request channel, and I get around to those things eventually. I try to do at least one a week. And so this is one of those that we're doing right now. Okay. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any way that would fail, but if it would fail somehow, now the error is going to get caught and it's going to be down in the error handler. So this one, oh yeah, we don't need this. So what you do here, let's we want to use let or var. I mean, it doesn't really matter which one we use as long as we use it consistently. So this is what I would do. I'd say, no, you don't. I mean, if you want it to just be text, we could have it just be text, but this is what I would do. Status equals 400. And yeah, so we could just do it like this, I guess. Whoops. And then that's it. So then throw your error. And in this particular case, you're not saving a whole ton, but as a pattern over time, this is the right style of pattern to use. And what I typically will have is actually my own error creator. So I would have, I have an errors package, and then I'll have errors.create, and then I'll pass in the message and the status, or I'll just pass in the object the way that I'd like it to be. So to make this a little bit more similar to that, we could do, say, object.assign. No, we couldn't really do that actually here because the message on an error doesn't always come across the way that it seems like it ought to. But anyway, yeah, I would, as the application grows, I'd have an errors package and I'd call create, and then I would use a code and say, for example, the code might be, if I was to do this the way I'm talking about, let me show you exactly how I would do this. I'd have my errors package, it'd have a create method, so I do errors.create, and then I would do code, no NRIC or whatever it's called. And then, or I would do either like that, depending on what style worked better, or like this. I would do one of those two things. And then that would generate this error with the correct text and the correct status code, etc. So that's hey, Mike, what's up? Happy Lunar New Year. I don't even know anything about it, but I heard something about it. And I know that Kai's celebrating Family Feast. All right. And then we already decided that you've got that there. So you asked about validation. The one I shamefully have not picked one for certain for myself. But AJV, so the three that you got to look at are AJV, Joy, and Yup. So I would probably prefer to find something that only has 100 stars rather than something that has 18,000 stars, because if it has 18,000 stars, it's been around too long, it's got too much legacy cruft with it, it has too many dependencies. So let's see if anybody says anything here. No, Joy. Joy is the one. Joy. Did I say AJV? I think Joy. Because if you look at this on, was it NPM trends? Yeah. Okay, and then you take a look, go to bundle phobia. Oh, yeah, see all these, they're created too long ago, which means they carry a lot of legacy with them. A lot of just junk old JavaScript that, or worse, updated JavaScript that's been updated to be more complicated for no reason. And so if you look at AJV on NPM, and you look at the number of dependencies it has, it's atrocious. So look at this, 41 dependencies. Do you want to trust however many different authors have access to all this stuff just for one package plus 4 of these, which I guess those are actually meaningful. But I mean, somebody puts a Bitcoin miner in one of these things, which has already happened several times on NPM, and then, or not Bitcoin miner, but a key stealer, a Bitcoin key stealer or whatever. And, so there's no sense in this is just, it's too insane. It's too insane for me. But if you look at, I believe Joy was the one. Joy only has a few dependencies, and these are reputable dependencies. So Happy is owned by Walmart. So Walmart Labs produces this. So you know that if nothing else, it at least passes Walmart's guidelines, which who knows, maybe they're really sucky. And then Sideway. And I don't know what Sideway is, but I actually trust modules that have an @ in front of them a little bit more, because typically that means, especially when you see them grouped together like this, that means that you're going to have a similar level of quality. between the modules because they're coming from a similar ecosystem where there's going to be similar code style, there's going to be similar security policies, etc. So if you've got to use something that is old, try to pick one that has the least dependencies, and especially the one where the dependencies are from similar organizations. So you can say, yeah, there's some code style sharing and some security policy sharing between these. Whereas, you look at that other one, who knows? If you needed to do an audit, if you needed to do a security audit on this, how the heck would you do that with 50 different authors, and then who knows how many dependencies they have, and the transitive dependencies would just be insane. So yeah, I definitely would prefer ones that come from a limited number of organizations. So I think that's it. I think that's I spent way more time on this just BSing and all that. But any questions? You got questions? I've got answers. Might not be answers you like, but they're answers I believe in. Though I do reserve the right to change my mind. But I would say this. Pick either var and put everything up at the top, just like you would with C. So, for example, var, or pick let. I don't know. This makes sense in general. Var at the top of stuff makes sense because it doesn't matter, but it's just, I don't know. Var const let, it's just, there's too many different rules. So it's pretty simple to say, yeah, my code style is that I use var and I just declare stuff at the top and then I use it where I need it, the end. And I would not, again, this is AJ style. Nobody else does it this way. But if you're going to use const at all, use it for actual constants. Put it at the top of the file, not in the middle of a function. Because if it goes in a function, it obviously can't be computed at compile or original interpret time. So it's obviously not an actual constant, And in this case, if this is, what is this? Updated art, new art entry, top value was new NRC. Oh, was this supposed to be new NRC down here or something? See, I screwed up the code. I'm sorry. I'm gonna go change it back before I make this PR. Because that part, admittedly, I'm not clear I made it better. No, this is really weird though. That's really weird. Oh no, this new NRC is up here. Yeah, okay. I'll meet you halfway. I'll meet you halfway. I'll meet you halfway on this one. Because in this particular case, okay, I can be reasonable. I can say, yeah, maybe, just maybe. But what would this be? Entry? Is that what this is? But not that's a bridge too far. That's a bridge too far. That one there. No, that's a no. And I'm going to suggest just use daggone regular functions. That's a lot cleaner and easier to read. That part is. Doing the nested stuff, okay, you got me. It's, yeah. But there, that's nice and easy to read. That's nice and clean. None of this super bajillion arrow crap. I just can't handle it. I can't do it. It looks too weird. I can't do it. All right, validation. But we just talked about validation. That was what the joy was. Joy is validation. Oh, you said I must try joy. Would be better to do it once right with the initial request comes in instead of checking in the function all the times. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And as you saw, all of these are pretty similar. But I'm going to look for one that is not a million years old. I'm gonna post it to Reddit and see if Reddit has an answer for me, because that's how I found, what was the thing that I recently found? So Bear Test and Zora. So if you want a testing framework, these are the ones to look at. So if you need unit tests, Bear Test is all you need for unit tests. This is extremely simple. This is pretty much written the way that I would write it. I didn't look in here yet, but yeah, it's doing is just creating some loops. And well, I wouldn't write it this way because this is too shorthand and kind of ugly, but but the functionality is basically what I would do. All you're doing is just creating some things and then doing some pushes. Yeah, so it's just creating it. It's just wrapping arrays is all it's doing. It's constructing arrays the same way that you've seen me do before. And so I really like the philosophy of bare test being really, really stupid simple. And then Zora is a little bit more. This is more for integration testing where you need to have groups of things and running things in parallel and all that. That's what Zora's for, but it's very similar philosophy, extremely lightweight, no garbage dependencies. Well, maybe a few, but very, very lean, you know. Prettier is not a dependency. Prettier is an NPM script. You know, you just put in prettier here and then see, it should be npx prettier at latest or prettier at 2.x. You don't need tooling for scripts does not go as a dependency because you can use npx. Anyway, enough about that. All right. Return. Okay. And I don't know what is art now. Because you're returning art? Didn't you want to return entry? I'm so confused. Is this because entry is part of art? And you want to, okay, all right. So you're modifying. Okay, I kind of get it. Whatever. I'm going to style. Opa AJ style. Let's see, we have a... There we go. I don't even know if he says Opa. There you go. Okay. Yeah, I don't exactly know what this is, so I made some, you know, maybe some stupid choices for some things. I don't know if it runs. You know, I did this all in the GitHub editor, which I have told people don't ever do that. But, you know, I'm a faithful hypocrite, just like the other ones. I do dumb things sometimes. All right, anything else? Are we ready to close this one out, y'all? Hey, Mike, you finally joined in. Nice to have you. I thought you'd never come. Ugh. All right. Oh, we got some content requests up already. Ooh. VS Code in GitHub. Oh yeah, I think I know what you're talking about now. I saw something about that. All right. Well, hey, if you liked it, give it a like. If you didn't like it, give it a thumbs down. And if you did like it, well, of course, share with someone that you do like. And if you don't like it, of course, share with someone that you don't like. I'm going to wait about 30 more seconds for questions, plus a little bit extra because of the whole way the setup goes. Oh, by the way, I've got this new thing where I can change camera angles now at the press of a button. Check this out. Boop. Oh. Boop. Whoa. Right? And yeah, so I can do that now. I can even go full screen. Woo! Didn't see that one coming. Oh, I was pointing to the wrong camera. Anyway, yeah, so I'm just hanging out. Why no error functions? Because they're dumb. I know that's a terrible answer, but I don't know how else to say it. It's just I may actually have a why no arrow functions, but basically this looks like a comparator, right? It looks like equal or greater than. And it's breaking syntax to the way that JavaScript works. So this is one of my things is that JavaScript as a language has a lot of benefits, and everybody's just throwing the baby out with the bathwater. And this is really confusing. No, okay. So let me click edit on this. I'm not actually going to edit it any further, but let me click edit on this or anything. I just need to get something up where I can type real quick. I will show you a problem with this is really advanced stuff. And this is why I don't think you should use arrow functions. There's a number of reasons, but this is really advanced stuff. So, okay, this is a code block. All right, you with me? This is actually a code block. All right. Now, in JavaScript, we can have labels. So let's say that you just have, X, or call it foo. In theory, that you could go to foo. So you could have foo, and foo could be console.log hello. And then you could say go to foo, and this would be a loop. Now, the go to was never implemented in JavaScript. I think it's a reserved word. But we have labels just in case. Labels can also be used on loops. So if you have a for loop, so you can do for like this, okay? And then you can say break foo. And you could have another loop. So let's say we got this one. This is coming around. This is directly related to what we're talking about. Okay. So you could break foo, and you could call this one bar, right? And we could, okay, so this looks kind of confusing, but you can have a label, and you can label a for, and then you can break to a label. Well, you do this in Go all the time, and most JavaScript people don't know you can do this. Also, you can have any number of blocks in JavaScript. So this is a block, and this is a block, and this is a block. Now, these are not object literals. Because there's no assignment expression, this is interpreted as a block rather than an object literal, which is really weird because there's just kind of these syntax bugs in JavaScript. So if I here do foo, and then I do bar, this is exactly the same. Okay, so this right here, this is exactly the same as if I were to do this. There's no difference between these two. So it would evaluate bar, the string, as an expression and immediately throw it away. And that's what this does here. Okay, so now let's change this a little bit. All right, so now we have foo and bar. Okay, so now let's back this up again. Now let's say we have an arrow function that takes a bar and goes to a block, right? Do you know what this is going to do? It's literally going to do nothing. It will do nothing because it starts a block, it labels the expression bar as foo. Nothing happens. All values are thrown away. That's it. Okay? So the arrow functions overload several things that are already part of the existing language's syntax, and makes it difficult to read and difficult to use and difficult to expect. So doing the implicit returns, having this, it's just, yeah, it doesn't do what you would expect it to do. And then to make matters worse or better, or I don't know which one's which, I'm not sure what this will do. I think if you do this, I think that will return an object, because if you tell it to evaluate it, I believe it will evaluate it as an object before it gets into the whatever condition that this is turning the code on the other side of it into. So, but the point is that the thing that's on the right side of the arrow doesn't necessarily evaluate as an expression. And so you can get really weird bugs. And then you can get weird bugs if you don't understand thisness, then you can get really weird bugs with the arrow expressions because they don't do thisness properly, and so on and so forth. Oh, crap! The whole time. Oh, sorry, y'all. I got so fancy. Oh, dang it. Now I have to go back. Oh, my bad. Okay, so we'll just cut, clip, edit that part. And I'm just gonna go back all the way and just kind of re-explain that real quick. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh man, see what happens when I get fancy? This is what I'm talking about. You get fancy, you always regret being fancy. Okay, sorry, I wasn't checking there. Stimulus brings JS controllers on top of existing HTML. I will check that out. That sounds interesting. Yeah, Vincent, it's because you're here. Yeah. Yeah. Anytime you try to get fancy, you always make mistakes. So see, I was trying to be fancy with the camera, and then yeah. But the thing is, if I do this and I put the screen share up, and then it looks weird. So anyway, so I'm gonna make this bigger again. I'm just gonna give you a real quick rundown on what we just did, because this is actually in content requests. So I'm gonna need to clip this anyway. So yeah, but I'll give the abbreviated version. I'll do a different one for that particular content request because I want the title to be there and all that. But so in JavaScript you can have a label. So foo is a label, and then let's see, can I do this? So I could label this statement console.log as foo, and then I was saying that you can also label a for loop. I was saying that goto is not implemented, but it's a reserved word, so you could do a loop with goto hypothetically, although it's not been implemented. But you can label a for loop like this, and then you can break on the label foo, and then you can have another loop, and then you could either break on foo or bar. So you could have one loop labeled foo and one loop labeled bar, and then you could break the label that you intend, or the loop that you intend to break. So this is how you break out of nested loops. Whereas if you use .sum to break out of a nested loop, you just do .sum instead of .for each, and then you return true, and it'll break out that way. Okay, so then this is considered to be a block in JavaScript. This is not an object literal. And the reason it's not an object literal is because there's no variable on the other side to capture it as an expression. Okay, and there's no semicolon to let it know it's an expression. So it's being considered as a block. This is one of the reasons that you should always use semicolons, because there's weird cases where objects are considered blocks rather than objects. But if you make sure to put a semicolon, then you're not going to be plagued by that, hopefully, mostly, I don't know. So you can have an arbitrary nesting of blocks. And if you do that, you can put a label inside of a block, and then you can put an expression on the right side of the label. So this whole thing will do absolutely nothing. There's nothing that it does. All right. And so that does nothing. It's the exact same thing as this. Both of them do nothing. They both only create a string, and then it gets thrown away. Right. So that was my thing. So if you do this type of syntax, what I was saying, with an arrow function, it looks as though you're returning an object, but what you're actually doing is creating a block, and then you're labeling the expression of the string bar. And then I don't know what this does. If you put it all in one single line, I don't know what it does, but if you surround it in parens, then you cause it to evaluate as an object. Okay? And that's what happens. So that was the whole thing that I said, just redone. Was that crystal clear this time? Any questions on that? I'll wait around a little bit longer. Hello, everybody. We got a ton of people joining in today. I'm so excited about that. What is it? Friday night? Okay, look. Why are y'all not out doing date night or something? Or date day? Or whatever it is, wherever you are. I guess you're on the other side of the world. Saturday morning. So am I your Saturday morning cartoons? Is that what I've been reduced to? I'm a replacement for Saturday morning cartoons. What? I guess I can't complain. I'm glad you're here. I'm just wondering why so many people are joining in this particular time. It's because Kai picked such an awesome topic, and he probably brought some of his audience or something. All right. Anyway, if anybody wants to join in on the Discord, I do this, Coders Don't Date by Cal. Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Now, John Sonmez is not someone who's got this effervescent personality, but he has some pretty darn good advice. And if you're having trouble getting dates, I'd recommend that you listen to him. Another person, she no longer sells her course material, but it's basically how I learned to date. The problem is she only teaches you how to get into a relationship, not how to stay in a relationship, but her advice works. Her name is Elisa Goodwin Snell, and I've got some of her material that no longer is sold, so I'd be willing to slip you a copy under the rug if you ask nicely. But if you're having trouble getting dates, those are the two people I'd recommend. Elisa Goodwin Snell comes from the perspective of a woman, which I think she is, there's certain commonalities between women. I think she speaks for a certain class of, or category to say, of women. She speaks in a way that makes a lot of sense. And John Sonmez, the bulldog mindset guy, Stoic philosophy, it just a lot of good stuff. So I will say that. This is a party night. Well, go party. I don't know. Oh, okay. It's the time differences. So R, is it Saturday or is it Friday? Eh? Okay. But yeah, again, so I'm waiting just a little bit longer. We can hang out and chat a little bit. That's cool too. But let me know. Hey, what's up, Key? Hey, it turns out that thing's working. Did everybody hear the sound too? Is it too loud or is it just right? I just hooked that up the other day. I haven't tested it yet. So that's cool. That's cool. But yeah, any more questions? West Coast going to bed, East Coast waking up, plus Friday to Saturday. East Coast not waking up. Who's waking up at 3 a.m.? My grandma. My grandma wakes up at 3 a.m. All right, Johannes is sending me a message over on the Discord. I'll wait for that. Saturday, 11 a.m. Cool. I'll keep that in mind. Friday, 1 a.m. Oh, and I think we just had a time change or something too. All right, so I'm gonna bring this over. Stimulus. I'm just gonna check it out real quick. I'll do a thing on it. By thing I mean a session, whatever these things are that we do. I'll just close out all that. And Kai, one of the most important parts, you did see the difference between using the async router and just using a bare promise with a .catch. Just remember to use .catches. You'll see everybody using try catch, but half of them don't even work at all because try catches don't work on asynchronous code, period. And if you ever await within a try catch, that's just a code smell. You should be doing your async .catch and passing in your error handler or let it bubble up. But always use await on anything that's promisable and always use .catch on any error that you intend to handle from a promise. Otherwise, you get the stupid, nesting try catch tree that's just as bad as all the other things in the past. Okay. I will, let's see. Maybe I'll check this out. Is this supposed to be what? This looks all right. Yeah, this looks pretty decent. Data controller. It's kind of in the style of Vue or Angular or Alpine. Angular being the most heavyweight, Alpine being the most lightweight. I don't like this stuff though. I do not like doing classes. I don't like default exports. But, again, and one of the problems with the export styles is, well, I don't like the import export stuff. Just use require unless you're in an environment where that doesn't make sense to do, which I guess if you're in the browser, this can work. But again, I don't, whatever. That's a different ball of wax. But yeah, this looks kind of cool. Modest ambitions. So, target context, hello. I don't understand quite. Greet is going to be, oh, okay. All right, yeah, I mean, the syntax not too bad. That's cool. That's cool. I mean, it's as long as I think most browsers support all this stuff now, so you shouldn't have to transpile or anything. But yeah, I think this is kind of nice. I'm actually going to send this to Ryan. I think Ryan might like this. So thanks for recommending that, Johannes. That's really great. I haven't the head for dates after all. I don't know. Why not? Greet is an action which can be an event listener on elements. Yeah, when I saw it here, I got it because this is kind of Ruby syntax for instance method. So we're saying hello. Wait, where's hello at? Click. Okay, let me slow down. Export default class, hello controller, data controller equals hello controller, but from stimulus. But what is it that ties? I'm not quite clear. Is it just by the file name? Does this have a compile step? I don't like things that have a compile step. This looks like it could be done without a compile step. Oh, Basecamp, Ruby guys. That's why they're using the Ruby syntax here, because they're the Ruby people. Okay. So this is great though. I love that they're just using native data controller, data hello target, data action. Let me put in a little emoji that explains how I feel about this. That's awesome. I love that a lot. So there. Okay, so that's cool. All right, data, hello target, output, output target, output target. Yeah, there's a little bit of naming convention that isn't intuitively obvious to me, because it seems that it should just be this dot output. Or hello target. I think this is supposed to be hello target. I think they made a typo in their example. I could be wrong, but I think that this, or maybe, oh no, because they're trying to parse something. So with the way that the data works, the data is available on the element, and you can access it, I think, as maybe this dot data dot hello target. But I think they're doing something kind of special there. But this looks interesting. I like the general style of this. I would love to see a presentation on it. If somebody's done a conference talk on this or a meetup presentation on this, that'd be cool. In fact, I'm going to go put this over in Utah Node.js channel, and I'm going to see if anybody wants to do a presentation on this. Anybody want to learn? Anybody want to? Would anyone? No. Who'd like to do a to-do app in Stimulus and give us a presentation next month? Bump, bump. I'm going to put an at everyone. Yep, I'm going to send it to everyone despite the time zone. They're all going to hate me. Bum, 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 bum. That's all right. And then we got some other things in here. Let me check and see. Yeah, that'd be great. How complicated of an app can you code in pure HTML, do you think? Zero complicated. HTML is not a programming language. You cannot create an app in it. Unless your app is that you want something to change colors and you use, but then you still have to use CSS. But I'm assuming when you say HTML, you mean HTML and CSS. Whereas I'm not as generous when we think about JavaScript. JavaScript is not HTML. HTML and CSS are basically how do you draw a picture with a rendering engine. That's different thing. But yeah. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, then I think I'm going to go prepare some lesson material. So I'm gonna hang up the phone, and I'm gonna go typity. The thing that I'm working on is explaining programming, software engineering conceptually at a beginner level. So we'll see how this goes, because we all know that I'm not that great at beginner content. But I'm going to give it another try because that's what I want to get towards eventually. But this is going to be about, so what is a programming language? A programming language is essentially syntax, characters, some curly braces, some square braces, a few words that dictate what the language is, usually less than 40 words, in a good language, less than 20 words. And the entire language is composed of just those symbols and those words. And give some examples of this is what the entire language of JavaScript looks like, of Go, of Python. I'll probably just do AJScript rather than JavaScript, because JavaScript is growing so big that I don't know if I can fit all the words on a slide anymore, whereas with Go and Python, I think I could. And then there's libraries that allow you to interact with things. And then the fundamental job that a language is doing is telling a computer which wires to send Morse code across. And that's kind of the basic idea of what I'm going for, is what is programming? What does it look like? What does it do? And then, saying it really doesn't matter what language you learn. If we're just condensing it down to the 3-minute version here, it doesn't matter what language you learn. It just matters that you learn how to program. So tell me what you think about that. Okay. Well, thanks for joining in. Really appreciated it. Again, like if you like, sub if you want to, follow if you're on Twitch, I guess, rather than sub. I should probably switch to using Twitch language since Twitch is where most people watch live streams. I don't know. You tell me. Um, yeah, if you didn't like it, thumbs down and share with someone you don't like. Otherwise, share with someone that you do like, that you think would get value out of something in this. Put a link to a time code. By the way, so I've got a digital assistant thing going on. I need some people to help with the channel, paid gig stuff, and some people to help with programming in general. The programming, if you want to help out with the programming, then this is the litmus test that you need to pass. And there's no point in cheating, because you don't want to work for me if you're cheating to try to work for me, because I'm just going to fire you within the first couple of hours, because it'll be quite obvious that you don't know how to code. So this is the litmus test, is basically, can you take this value object, which in JavaScript we typically refer to value objects as JSON, though technically JSON is the serialized value object, not the value object itself, but nuance, well, not nuance, but people call things by the wrong name. But can you take this value object and serialize it as this YAML? That's the litmus test. So I'll give a link to this. So AJ's coding litmus test. So basically, to me, this answers the question, do you know how to code? If you do not know how to solve this problem, in my eyes, you are not yet a beginner. Although, because if you're pre-beginner, that's when you're learning. You're not a beginner yet, you're learning. When you are a beginner, you should be able to solve this problem. If you are a mid-level developer, I would expect that you'd be able to solve this problem mostly somewhere in the realm of 30 to 60 minutes, and then be able to debug and fine tune it within another 60 to 90 minutes. Although I totally understand some people's brains locks up when they feel that there's a deadline, because I'm that way. We perform poorly under pressure or whatever. I mean, I wouldn't be watching or anything, but this is just, if you can show me that you can code this, you probably won't code it correctly entirely, because almost everybody misses the little gotchas. But if you can write this up, then I mean, if you can write code that will solve this problem, and if you're a senior engineer, you should be able to almost get this entirely done in about 20 to 30 minutes, the whole thing. But a mid-level engineer, I would expect that if it takes you more than 2 hours, it's probably just because you're a little bit more towards beginner and not quite towards what I would consider to be mid-level. But yeah, but I can use mid-level people, beginner people. Unfortunately, I don't have a role that I can, I could use you as kind of a bad terminology. I don't know how to say it, but hire you. I don't know. I don't know what the right wording is. That sounds inhumane, but that's what it is. Anyway, I'm out. I just did a video on why my handle is CoolAge86. If you check the previous stream, that's what that was. Story time with AJ. And I'll catch y'all later. You have an excellent day, morning, night, noon, whatever it is, wherever you are. And yeah, I hope to see you again. I typically stream, kind of, my Twitch schedule is kind of sort of true. It kind of sort of is the way I stream, but I mostly stream in the evenings. But anyway, with all that said, you have a great one. Yeah, Vincent, if you can't do this, that litmus test, then because you present yourself as someone that I would imagine would be in the category of person that maybe could even solve it in 10 minutes. You seem to be you present yourself as being someone who is intelligent to the point of obnoxiousness. So maybe you're misrepresenting yourself a little bit in that way, and your online presence is a little bit more snarky and dry humor and super clever. But I would imagine that you are somebody, you might even be able to do that quicker than I can. But certainly you should be able to do it. If not, then I have to rethink my life with how I interact with people online, I guess. All right. Adios.